Hi everyone, my name is Taye Abidakun. In this video, we'll be explaining custom hooks in ReactJS. In the last video, we talked about HOC, higher order components, and we said you can make use of custom hooks to do the same thing. So let's see how we can use custom hook. We are going to use custom hook to do the same thing we did in our last video with HOC, higher order component. So this is it. We make use of this is the HOC here. So we're going to be removing the HOC now. Then we go to the components and remove this. Remove. So custom hooks allow the usability of codes. You want to reuse those codes, especially when it involves stateful logic. You want to reuse stateful logic across different components. Okay. So before making use of the hook, let's first see what we want to do without the hook. So let's go to the first component and bring in use state. So let's set the initial value of num to be 0. Then display it on the screen. Next is add a button here to increase this value. So you want to increase, when you click on this button, you want to increase this num by 1. So what you're going to do is, since you're making use of the previous value, then we can write this. We want to do the same thing in the second component. Okay, let's copy all of. Let's even copy all of it since it's the same thing. Okay. Good. So this is what we want to do. And as you can see, we are using quotes in the two components. Like we are using the same quotes in the two components. This is not what we want. We want to be able to reuse some quotes. So what we're going to do is we're going to make use of custom hook to allow the usability of code so that we won't be rewriting the same codes over and over again. Let's create our custom hook. Let's create a folder and I'll call it custom hooks. Okay. So inside this folder, we're going to put a file. So all my custom hooks will be inside this custom hooks folder. So we want to put a file. I can call it usenum. So I've created a file called usenum. Whenever you want to create a custom hook, ensure that the name of the hook starts with use. Ensure that it starts with use. That makes React to be aware that this is a custom hook. So for that reason, I'll call it const use. Then I'll also call it usenum. Then this custom hook, a custom hook is just a function. a function that may return anything. The function will return a string, it may return a number, it may return an object, it may return an array, it may return anything, and it may even return uh, an array of objects. It can return whatever you want it to return. So inside the custom hook, you can make use of React hooks, your use state, your use effects, and all of those things. Use the user, all of those things. You can make use of that inside your custom hook. So inside this custom hook, I'm going to be making use of use states. Bring num and set num equals to use state. So set the initial value to be 0. Then I'm going to go to a function that we can use to increase this value of num. So const increment. So whenever I click on this, or whenever I call on this function increment, it's going to increase the value of num by 1. So we can say inside this place, call on increment set num, then use the previous value and let it return previous plus 1. So whenever we call an increment will increase the value of num by 1. Then next, you want to be able to use this num elsewhere and also this increment. Again, we want to be able to make use of this num and this increment elsewhere. So we are going to be returning it. So say return. You can return an array. In this case, we are returning an array. The first value of the array, we are saying let it be num, and the second value of the array, let it be increment. You can also add this set num. If you are using set num, we won't need this increment, but then I like to write my code in such a way that wherever I have my use states, that's where I'm also calling on this set num. So for that reason, I'm not going to be exporting or returning this set num, so that we won't be able to directly call on this set num inside components in our application. We won't be able to call on that directly. Whenever we need to call on set num, it must be done inside this place. So that's why I'm not returning this. That's why we created this function increment. But you can if you want to. So whenever you call on use num now, you will see these values there. Remember, let's go to vanilla JavaScript. In vanilla JavaScript, let's say we have a function like this, and you call on that function. Let's say I have a function called myFunc, and I take out the function. Then I set that as a variable equals to this. When I take out the function, whatever that function returns will become the value of A. Whatever the function returns automatically becomes the value of A. So we're going to be making use of this in our code also. And let's export this use now so that we'll be able to import it in components. So you can say export default use num. So let's now make use of it in the first and the second components. I'll go to the first components and I'll remove this. Remove this. Remove this. So we no longer have state inside this place. To bring in that use num that we just created, we can now create a variable equals to use num. So when we trigger use num, it's going to return this array. It's going to return this array, and the first value in the array is num, and then the second value is increment. So we can come here now and say a index 0. A index 0. Remember, the first value in the array is num. So this will display 0 because we have this. this becomes the value of num, and you are returning num. So for that reason, a index 0 will now be whatever the value of num is, and the value of num is also 0. So let's see that on the screen. Refresh, go to the first component now. But this increase will not work for now, so let's make it work. You're going to come here and say unclick. Then when you call on this, then trigger a index 1. A index 1 is a function, So when you click on this, then it will call on this function, a index 1. Remember, a index 1 is this increment is increment. So it's going to do on the cost there. So now, when you click on this now, the value is coming up. But then, let's make this better. We can make use of the power of destruction. Let the first value be num, and let the second value be increment. So we are destructuring it. Since we know that this is returning an array, so we are destructuring this out. So instead of saying a index 0, we can say num. And instead of saying a index 1, we can call on increment there. So we still have the same results. So let's do the same thing inside the second components. So I'll come here now. I'm bringing, instead of from use state, it's going to be from use num. Then I can say increment. So we still have the same, increment is not defined. Oh, sorry. We can call it increment. So we still have the same results. Let's go to the second component now and use it. Let's move a step deeper. We want to be able to set the initial value of num. At the moment, the initial value of num is 0. But we want our components, maybe in this particular component, I want the initial value of num to be 5. In another component, I want the initial value of num to be 10. Not for all components to start as 0. Again, I want to be able to set my initial value, the initial value of my num. So maybe in this component, I want the initial value to be maybe this, maybe 5 or anything. And in another component, I want the initial value to be something else. So not all of them starting from 0. Let's do that together. So we are going to say, whenever we call on useNum, we want useNum to expect a value. We can call this initial. So useNum now, we are turning into a parameterized function, so that whenever we call on it, it should expect a value. And whatever value it is should be set here, initial. So for that reason, whenever we call on useNum, we pass a value. That value will be sent to useState, and it becomes the value of num. So that becomes the initial value of num. So we go to this component now and put a value here, 5. So the initial value of num for this component will be 5, because this 5, when we call on this like this, use num like this 5 will be sent to this place as the value of initial, and useState will set it as initial. Then num becomes initial. Then let's go to the second component and set the initial value of this maybe to be 20. So again, this 20 will be sent as the value of initial, and useState will set it as the initial value of this num. So let's go to the browser and see it. We see 20 here. We are inside the second component, so we can increase it. When we go to the first component, we see 5, then we can increase it. Okay, let's do something more. Let's say I want to be able to increase the value of num by 2, 3, 4. Not just, instead of adding 1, I want to be able to add 2, I want to be able to add 3, I want to be able to add 4, on and on like that. So let's do that. This function increment now, we can make it a parameterized function that's expecting a parameter. So we can say, we can call it added num. So instead of saying num plus 1, it becomes num plus added num. So why making use of increment like this? Instead of calling like this, we're going to make it a parameterized function now. So if I click on this now, I can add 4. Well, if I call on it here, then we can add maybe 2. We can add 2. So let's look at the results together. This we add 4. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Well, if we go to the second, this we add 2. So I hope with this video, we understand how custom hooks work. I hope you understand it. Thank you so much. If you have any question, let me know.